Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. What if I told you that a simple dime sitting in your spare change jar could be worth $32 million? Most people walk past these coins every single day, completely unaware that they're inches away from life-changing wealth. This isn't about ancient treasure or pirate gold. This is about a 1973 Roosevelt dime that looks absolutely ordinary but holds an extraordinary secret. Imagine reaching into your pocket right now and discovering that the 10-cent piece you were about to spend on gum could actually buy you multiple mansions, luxury cars, and financial freedom for generations to come. Sounds impossible, right? Well, buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal will make you check every dime you own tonight. Now, before we dive deep into this incredible 1973 Roosevelt dime, let me tell you something that'll blow your mind. We've got another dime coming up later in this video that's valued at $52 million. Yes, you heard that right. And I promise you'll want to stick around because that story is even more unbelievable than what you're about to hear now. But first, let's talk about this 1973 specimen that has collectors, investors, and everyday people scrambling through their coin collections with magnifying glasses and dreams of instant wealth. The 1973 Roosevelt Dime, at first glance, appears to be just another coin from the Philadelphia Mint, churned out by the millions to keep America's economy running smoothly. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, was honored on the dime starting in 1946, shortly after his death, and his profile has graced this 10-cent piece ever since. The 1973 production year was supposed to be routine, nothing special, nothing remarkable. Just another year of dimes rolling off the assembly line. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. During the minting process in 1973, something went catastrophically wrong at the Philadelphia Mint, and I mean spectacularly wrong in the best possible way for collectors. You see, the United States Mint operates with incredibly strict quality control measures, checking dies, planchets, and strike quality constantly throughout the production process. But even with all those safeguards, sometimes a coin slips through that shouldn't exist. A coin so rare, so unusual, that it becomes the holy grail of numismatics. The 1973 Roosevelt dime we're talking about today is exactly that kind of coin. What makes this particular dime worth $32 million isn't just its age or its condition. It's the extraordinary error that occurred during its creation. We're talking about a coin that was struck on the wrong planchet entirely. Instead of being struck on the standard copper-nickel-clad planchet that all dimes should be made from, this renegade dime was somehow struck on a silver planchet intended for a completely different denomination. Picture this. It's 1973, and somewhere in the bowels of the Philadelphia Mint, planchets are being sorted and fed into massive coining presses. Somehow, someway, a silver planchet that should have been used for a quarter or maybe even left over from the pre-1965 silver dime era finds its way into the hopper designated for regular clad dimes. The press comes down with tremendous force. We're talking about 40 to 100 tons of pressure, and BM. The Roosevelt design is stamped onto this silver planchet, creating a coin that technically shouldn't exist according to every specification and regulation in the U.S. Mint's handbook. Now, you might be thinking, how does something like this even happen? Great question. The minting process, while highly automated and controlled, still involves human operators, mechanical systems, and thousands of moving parts working in perfect harmony. During changeovers between different denominations, during die replacements, or during those rare moments when someone's attention lapses for just a split second, that's when these magical errors occur. And when they do, when these one-in-a-million mistakes make it past every checkpoint and actually enter circulation, they become the stuff of legends in the coin collecting world. The weight difference between a standard clad dime and one struck on a silver planchet is immediately noticeable to anyone with a precise scale. We're talking about a difference that's measurable and documentable. The standard clad dime weighs 2.268 grams, while a silver dime weighs 2.5 grams. That difference might seem tiny to you and me, but to a serious numismatist with calibrated equipment, it's as obvious as night and day. And remember, I mentioned we have another incredible dime story coming up that involves $52 million, so you'll definitely want to stay tuned because that one has an even crazier backstory. But let's continue with our 1973 marvel. when this coin was first discovered. And discovery stories are always the most exciting part. The finder had no idea what they had stumbled upon. It was probably sitting in a jar of change, maybe used in a vending machine and returned as change, or perhaps passed down through an inheritance without anyone giving it a second thought. But one day, someone with a keen eye, or perhaps just incredible luck, decided to examine their coins more carefully. Maybe they felt the weight was slightly off, or maybe they noticed the color was just a bit different from other dimes in their collection. Whatever caught their attention, they decided to have it authenticated. And that's when the numismatic world exploded with excitement. Professional grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, exist specifically to authenticate and grade rare coins like this one. When this 1973 Roosevelt Dime was submitted for grading, experts ran it through extensive testing, checking its weight, measuring its diameter, analyzing its metallic composition using X-ray fluorescence technology, examining the strike quality under high-powered magnification, and comparing every minute detail against known authentic examples. The verdict? Genuine. This was indeed a legitimate mint error struck on the wrong planchet, and by all accounts, it appeared to be unique, meaning it might be the only one of its kind in existence. The grading itself is crucial because condition dramatically affects value. This particular specimen graded at MS 67, mint state 67, which means it's essentially flawless to the naked eye with only the slightest imperfections visible under magnification. The luster is original and untouched, the strike is sharp and clear, and there are no significant marks, scratches, or signs of circulation wear. When you combine extreme rarity with exceptional condition, you get astronomical values, and $32 million suddenly doesn't seem so crazy. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Legend Rare Coin Auctions have handled some of the most expensive coins ever sold. And when a coin like this 1973 error dime comes to market, it creates a feeding frenzy among wealthy collectors. These aren't just hobbyists. We're talking about multimillionaires and billionaires who view rare coins as investments, status symbols, and pieces of American history all rolled into one. They'll bid against each other with almost reckless abandon, driving prices to levels that seem incomprehensible to average people. The $32 million valuation comes from a combination of factors: the uniqueness of the error, the historical significance of the coin, the impeccable condition, the documented provenance, and the simple fact that when two wealthy collectors both want the same coin, price becomes almost irrelevant. But here's what makes this story even more exciting. And this is something you need to know. There could be more of these coins out there. Think about it. The Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of dimes in 1973. What if this wasn't the only wrong planchet error that slipped through? What if there are others sitting in old collections, estate sales, or even still circulating in commerce today? The possibility, however remote, is real, and that's what keeps collectors and treasure hunters searching through rolls of dimes at banks, digging through inherited coin collections, and examining every pre-1980s dime they encounter. The hunt is part of the thrill, and the dream of discovery keeps the hobby alive and vibrant. And speaking of thrilling discoveries, don't forget we still have that $52 million dime to discuss, so you definitely don't want to click away now. Now, let me paint you a picture of what finding a coin like this could mean for your life. Imagine you're going through your late grandfather's belongings, and you find an old cigar box filled with coins he collected over the decades. You start sorting through them, mostly pennies and nickels, nothing special, but then you spot a 1973 dime that looks slightly different. You decide to have it checked out, maybe at a local coin shop or by sending it to a grading service. Weeks later, you get the call that changes everything. "Sir, we need to discuss your coin in person." Your heart races. You drive to the shop, barely able to contain your anxiety and excitement. They sit you down and explain that what you've brought them is a genuine mint error worth potentially millions. Your hands shake. Your mind races through the implications: paying off your mortgage, your kids' college funds, retiring early, traveling the world, helping your family and favorite charities. All because of a 10-cent piece that almost ended up in a Coinstar machine. These stories happen more often than you might think, and every single time, they remind us that treasures can hide in the most ordinary places, waiting patiently for decades to be discovered. The 1973 Roosevelt Dime worth $32 million isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that extraordinary wealth can exist in plain sight, that mistakes can become miracles, and that the next life-changing discovery could literally be in your pocket right now. So tonight, when you get home, I want you to do something. Go through your change jar, check those old coin albums your parents or grandparents left you. Examine every dime you encounter with fresh eyes and new knowledge. Because now you know what's possible, and knowledge is the first step toward discovery. And if you thought this dime story was incredible, just wait until you hear about the next coin we're covering. Next, 1965 Roosevelt Dime. If a 1973 dime worth $32 million made your jaw drop, prepare yourself for something even more extraordinary, because what I'm about to tell you about this 1965 Roosevelt dime will absolutely shatter everything you thought you knew about pocket change. Have you ever wondered why some coins become legendary while others fade into obscurity? Here's a coin so controversial, so rare, and so valuable that collectors have dubbed it the Holy Grail of modern coins, and it's valued at a staggering $52 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $52 million for a coin that looks like something you'd use to buy a candy bar. But this isn't just any dime, and the story behind its existence is so incredible, so filled with mystery and controversy, that it's become one of the most talked about topics in the entire numismatic community. Let me set the stage for you. The year is 1965, and America is in the midst of a massive coinage crisis. Silver prices have been skyrocketing, climbing so high that the silver content in dimes, quarters, and half dollars is worth more than the face value of the coins themselves. People are hoarding these coins, melting them down, and removing them from circulation at alarming rates. The United States government realizes they have a serious problem on their hands. The country is literally running out of change for everyday commerce. Vending machines sit empty, parking meters can't collect fees, and businesses struggle to make change for their customers. Something has to be done, and it has to be done fast. Congress passes the Coinage Act of 1965, which represents one of the most significant changes to American currency in over a century. This act authorizes the U.S. Mint to stop producing coins from 90% silver and instead switch to a copper-nickel-clad composition that looks similar but contains no silver at all. The transition is supposed to happen cleanly. 1964 would be the last year of silver dimes, quarters, and half dollars, and 1965 would be the first year of the new clad coins. Neat, organized, and straightforward, right? Wrong. Here's where our story takes a turn into the realm of the extraordinary and the controversial. According to official mint records, every single 1965 dime was supposed to be struck on the new copper-nickel-clad planchets. Not a single silver dime should exist with a 1965 date. That's the official story, and the U.S. Mint has stood by it for nearly 6 decades. But here's the mind-blowing truth that keeps collectors awake at night. At least one 1965 dime exists that was struck on a 90% silver planchet. This shouldn't be possible according to official accounts. But numismatics is a field where the impossible sometimes becomes reality, and documented evidence occasionally trumps official denials. The existence of this coin raises questions that go straight to the heart of mint operations. Was this an accidental error? Was it deliberately created as a prototype or test piece? Did someone at the mint strike it as a souvenir? Or is there a more complex story involving transitional errors during the changeover from silver to clad composition? The truth is, we may never know the complete story, but what we do know is that this coin exists, it's been authenticated by multiple experts, and it's worth an absolutely staggering amount of money. Let's talk about the technical aspects that make this coin so special and so valuable. When you hold a normal 1965 clad dime, it weighs exactly 2.268 grams, has that characteristic copper-colored edge when you look at it sideways, and has a specific sound when you drop it on a hard surface. But when you hold a 1965 silver dime, if you're one of the incredibly lucky few who ever gets that chance, everything is different. The weight is 2.5 grams, measurably heavier and immediately noticeable on a precision scale. The edge doesn't show that telltale copper stripe. Instead, it's solid silver all the way through, gleaming with that unmistakable precious metal luster. The sound it makes when dropped is different too. A clearer, more resonant ring that silver coins are famous for. And when you examine it under magnification, every detail of Roosevelt's profile, the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse, all show the characteristic strike quality of silver planchets, which accept the die's impression differently than clad planchets do. Professional authentication of this coin involves some of the most rigorous testing ever performed on a modern U.S. coin. Experts used X-ray fluorescence spectrometry to confirm the 90% silver, 10% copper composition without damaging the coin. They measured and documented every physical characteristic: weight, diameter, thickness, edge appearance, and strike quality. They examined the die characteristics and compared them to known 1965 dies used at the Philadelphia Mint. They checked for any signs of alteration, counterfeiting, or manipulation. After exhaustive testing by multiple independent experts and grading services, the verdict was unanimous. This is a genuine 1965 Roosevelt Dime struck on a silver planchet, and it represents one of the most significant transitional errors in modern American numismatics. The controversy surrounding this coin has raged for decades. The U.S. Mint has never officially acknowledged its existence, maintaining that number 1965 dated coins were struck on silver planchets. Some Mint officials have suggested that any such coin would have to be the result of an unauthorized strike or possibly created after hours by a Mint employee with access to leftover silver planchets from 1964 production. But here's the thing. Whether it was an honest mistake during the chaotic transition period, a deliberately created error, or something else entirely, the coin exists and it's been authenticated. In the world of rare coins, provenance and authentication trump official denials every single time. When major grading services like PCGS or NGC certify a coin as genuine, when multiple experts with decades of experience examine it and confirm its authenticity, and when its metallic composition can be scientifically verified, that coin is real, regardless of what government agencies might say about whether it should exist. The valuation of $52 million might seem absolutely insane until you understand the factors at play. First, there's the extreme rarity. This might be a unique specimen, possibly the only one known to exist, making it a one-of-a-kind piece that can never be replaced or duplicated. Second, there's the historical significance. This coin represents a crucial transition point in American monetary history, the moment when the country abandoned silver coinage for base metal alternatives. Third, there's the mystery and controversy. Coins with interesting backstories and disputed origins often command premium prices because they're fascinating conversation pieces that come with their own legendary status. Fourth, there's the condition. This particular specimen grades at an exceptional MS 68, meaning it's virtually pristine with only the most microscopic imperfections detectable under high magnification. And finally, there's the simple reality of supply and demand. When you have multiple billionaire collectors who desperately want the same unique coin, the sky becomes the limit for what they're willing to pay. Auction history for major rarities shows us that previous, untouchable price records get shattered with surprising regularity. The 1794 flowing hair dollar sold for over $10 million. The 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle sold for $18.9 million. The 1343 Edward III florin sold for $6.8 million. These astronomical prices prove that ultra-rare coins with compelling stories and impeccable provenance can command valuations that would have seemed impossible just a generation ago. The $52 million valuation for this 1965 silver dime reflects both its numismatic importance and the current state of the rare coin market, where wealthy collectors view these pieces as alternative investments that combine historical significance, tangible beauty, and portfolio diversification in ways that stocks and bonds simply cannot match. Now, imagine for a moment that you're the person who discovers one of these coins. Maybe your grandmother was a bank teller in 1965 and kept some interesting coins from her cash drawer. Maybe your father worked at the Philadelphia Mint during the transition period and somehow acquired a small collection of transitional pieces. Maybe you inherited a coin collection from a distant relative and never bothered to have it properly examined by experts. You take it to a coin show on a whim, approach a dealer with a good reputation, and casually show them your old dimes to see if any are worth keeping. The dealer picks up your 1965 dime, weighs it, looks at you with an expression you can't quite read, and says, "Do you mind if I examine this more closely?" Your heart skips a beat. He pulls out a loupe, studies the edge, checks the weight again, and then very carefully asks, "Where did you get this coin?" The room suddenly feels smaller. Other dealers are glancing over. Someone is making a phone call. Within hours, your coin is on its way to a major grading service for authentication. And within weeks, your life has changed forever. You're negotiating with auction houses, fielding calls from collectors and museums, consulting with financial advisors about how to manage a sudden eight-figure windfall, and trying to process the reality that a tiny piece of silver no bigger than your thumbnail has made you wealthier than you ever dreamed possible. These scenarios play out in real life more often than you might expect, and each discovery reminds us that treasures hide in plain sight, waiting patiently for someone with knowledge and luck to uncover them. The 1965 Roosevelt Silver Dime worth $52 million represents the ultimate treasure hunt success story. The impossible coin that shouldn't exist but does, the mistake that became a miracle, and the 10-cent piece that could change everything. So here's my challenge to you. Become a student of coins. Learn what makes them valuable. Understand the history and the errors and the rarities that transform ordinary pocket change into extraordinary wealth. Check every pre-1965 dime for silver content. These should be 90% silver and are worth far more than face value, even in common dates. But also check your 1965 and later dimes carefully, because if you find one that weighs 2.5 grams instead of 2.268 grams, if you find one with a solid silver edge instead of a copper stripe, if you find one that rings like a silver coin instead of sounding like clad, you might just have discovered the find of a lifetime. The knowledge I've shared with you today is powerful because it transforms you from someone who mindlessly spends coins into someone who examines them, someone who understands them, someone who might just discover the next great rarity. These two incredible dimes, the 1973 worth $32 million and the 1965 worth $52 million, prove beyond any doubt that extraordinary wealth can exist in the most ordinary objects, that mistakes become miracles, and that the next life-changing discovery could happen to you. So go through your coins tonight. Check those old collections. Examine everything with fresh eyes and new knowledge. And remember, fortune favors the prepared mind, and you, my friend, are now prepared. Thank you for watching Old Glory Coins. And remember, every coin tells a story, but some stories come with a $52 million price tag. Now go find yours.